Hey everybody, I'm Lindsey Deluce. I'm here with Kelsey McEwen. Welcome to CTV Your Morning, the podcast.
It is a new day in Canada. This week, we will look at results from the federal election and what this means for us here at home, plus on the world stage. Thanks for joining us today. And remember, start your day with us live, weekdays from 6 to 9 a.m. Eastern, 7 to 10 a.m. Atlantic. We're on CTV, CTV News Channel, and the CTV News app.
We're starting this week with a look at our future here at home. A dramatic night at the polls this week delivered a new chapter for Canada with Mark Carney and the Liberals securing a win.
Now, big questions loom about what this means for Canada's direction at home and our evolving relationship with the United States.
Well, let's welcome back our election panel. Political strategist Amanda Alvaro, former Deputy Conservative leader Lisa Raitt, and former NDP MP Craig Scott. I'm going to miss you guys when you're gone because I've enjoyed having you here all morning long. Technical questions, but these are important. When they walk back into the House on May the 29th, what does it look like on the Conservative side? Like, who's there and who isn't?
Well, physically, Pierre Poilievre won't be there if the call stands, and I think it does. He's lost his seat. But that also means that he cannot be the leader of the official opposition. The leader of the official opposition is a parliamentary position that requires you to be an MP. He will be the leader of the extra-parliamentary Conservative Party of Canada, while there will be a leader in the House of Commons who is not him. And so this is also going to produce interesting dynamics as to whom the Prime Minister speaks to, but certainly who gets to stand up in the House. It's not just a question of who asks the questions. It's the fact that there will be an official opposition leader who is not Pierre Poilievre.
And who picks the official opposition leader?
Will it be him? Will it be the party members?
Yeah. No idea. Not a clue.
Well, if you don't know, how am I supposed to know?
Norm, given the caucus governance culture of the Conservative Party, basically, I think it's going to be an elected position. Or Poilievre would just try to name somebody.
Or does the deputy leader step in? Does Melissa Lantsman become, you know, the interim opposition leader? I mean, has this even happened before?
This is what I'm curious about, Craig. Has this happened before?
Look, what's happened before is the Prime Minister has lost their seat. Right. Mackenzie King lost a seat in 1925.
Well, listen, if we have to go back to Mackenzie King.
But we have this interesting anomaly, which is the Prime Minister does not need a seat to be the Prime Minister.
Yeah.
So we've just seen that with Mark Carney.
Same with cabinet
but
ministers,
it's not mirrored on the official opposition side. So,
interesting.
Yeah, and that also means little things like, you know, does Mr. Poilievre get to stay in Stornoway, which I understand is there's interesting.
It's a prize.
Interesting history in the Conservative Party of wanting to be in Stornoway.
Yeah.
So it's just one added layer of mess, and the extent of his authority inside caucus and over the party is going to play out not just in terms of him staying as leader, but how he seeks to control and whether he can control the caucus in terms of its parliamentary face.
Yeah. Well put.
Well, we saw, not only did we see this in his speech last night, which was, it's not the speech he wanted to give, but it's also not the speech we expected to hear. It was not a concession speech. He talked about change takes time. Yeah. And he positioned it as very strong. And if you listen to his speech in Oakville from the rally on the Sunday, where he signals, whatever happens, we're here to support you. So is it possible that these motions were already in play?
They didn't tell me if that was the case.
Okay.
I was under the impression that he was going to win his seat without a problem, and that all of this was just mischief. So there's a lot of people around the country feeling exactly the same feelings, right? And the question will come down to it now: how do they effectively represent in the House of Commons? And quite frankly, maybe there are phone calls happening to currently sitting members of Parliament to see if they will do what Elmer MacKay did and step aside in order to allow the leader to run in a more, I would say, safe seat.
Well, we're focused on Pierre Poilievre right now. I want to ask about what happened in Ontario. And Amanda, you said it this way. You said Ontario bought what the Conservatives were selling, except in Ottawa, where Pierre Poilievre lost his seat. What does that say when we shine a bright light on that?
Well, except in the 416, too.
Sure,
in Toronto.
Yeah. But I think a few things were at play, and I think the Conservatives knew these things were at play, because in the last week of the election, we saw, Poilievre wasn't in their ads anymore, so they were running conservative ads with a conservative message.
without the leader. You know, the Liberals took that on. They said, oh, he's in hiding. He wasn't in hiding, but I do think that they understood that they were selling a message that people were buying, that they were interested in. But this is a clear signal. To lose your own riding, your riding that you have held for 2 decades. You won it 7 consecutive times, and you weren't able to hold on to it. This is a signal, and it may be because we have 2 years leading up to this with a lot of toxic language that really framed Poilievre as a bit of an attack dog style politics that I think repelled a lot of people. He was able to tone that down a bit in the campaign, but did some of that stick? Is he the right leader for the party?
Lisa, I saw you nodding, so you're obviously in agreement with what Amanda is saying in terms of the questions people are asking.
Well, what she's saying tracks completely. I mean, that's going to be the analysis of what's happening. But what I'm thinking as Amanda speaks is how much does Pierre own the hearts and minds of the candidates who just got elected?
Yeah.
The ones that are new, the ones that just came in. Are they going to give him another chance? Are they going to agree that his style of leadership is the appropriate leadership to bring them to the promised land of a government?
He's got a lot of evidence to put on the table in front of them. If you're looking at numbers, if you're looking at the seats that they picked up, if you're looking at popular vote numbers, there is a lot to say, all is not lost here. I can still lead, and I have led us to this point.
Yeah.
It may not be the promised land, but it's pretty close.
It's true, but Canadians didn't know Mark Carney. They may still be a little bit hesitant. He now is going to have a clear runway to make himself very likable within the Canadian population. They're on a very short runway.
We've seen lots of changes in terms of personality and tone and physical changes in terms of look. What are some of the changes that we need to see going forward in this new structure of government that we have from him?
Wow, I don't know what he's going to do. I have no idea how he's going to do that. I mean, it seems to me that at the end of the day, where we won on the strength of the incumbent member of parliament who was conservative. Like, my friends got pluralities in Ontario that I had not anticipated, into the 60%. That's a big number for a conservative. So if you want to vote conservative, if you like your local candidate, you are going to vote conservative. And I think that's my takeaway from what happened in Ontario.
Okay, I want to ask you, Craig, about the NDP. How soon will we see a leadership race, or could we see a leadership race?
Well, there's no could. We will.
Yeah.
Jagmeet made clear that he was stepping down as soon as an interim leader appeared. The interim leader could emerge as a parliamentary thing, and we talked about this earlier, or the federal council could try to get involved. Keep in mind that there's an interim leader for the extra-parliamentary parliament and an interim leader in the House of Commons. They'll want it to be the same person. Yeah. Let's just say that happens fairly quickly. Then the federal council decides. Keep in mind, we're not likely to have a lot of energy and or money for a leadership race. I honestly don't know what it's going to look like. We do not have what happened with Tom Mulcair. Yeah. When Tom said he would step down after the vote at a convention, a floor motion came up immediately to buy like a year and a half's worth of time. I can't remember how much it was, to allow the party to get its house in order. That scenario is gone here. So I honestly, they're going to have to decide right away whether or not they're going to give it a long runway. I would have to look to see whether or not there's something in our Constitution that time dates it, but I don't know.
And I'm thinking now, I don't know how our National Council and the Conservatives interplay with all this as well.
Yeah. So lots of unknowns still this morning. I mean, it is 8:17 in the morning, but I just to paint the picture for everybody. So the Parliament comes back on May the 29th. Yeah. So if I hear you all correctly, and please correct me if I'm wrong, you've got Mark Carney in the Prime Minister's chair. You have somebody else leading the opposition in the House, and we don't know who is going to be the leader in the House. So it'll be an interim leader in the House for the NDP.
And a speaker.
Right.
We don't know who the speaker is.
We don't know who the speaker is. There is one possible spin. When the Governor General calls the election, I'll just use that language, they set a date for the return of a new parliament. But that date can be pushed. At the request of the Prime Minister, the Governor General can issue a new proclamation and have Parliament return a bit later. So depending on how messy this is, and it happened. It's happened in the past. I think it was under Mr. Harper that the return date changed a little bit. So keep in mind that if this is really messy, it's possible, although I don't know what the optics would be.
We came back earlier, I think, in 2011. We did. Yeah, we came back earlier.
Yeah.
Well, whether he's guiding a meditation for millions or chatting with Selena Gomez about what makes love last, Shetty has a way of making ancient wisdom feel personal and practical. He has become one of the most recognizable voices in wellness and self-development. And now, for the first time ever, he is taking his popular podcast On Purpose on the road for a live tour right across North America, including stops here in Canada. Shetty is joining us with more. Welcome to Your Morning.
Hey, Anne-Marie, it's so nice to meet you. I'm so grateful to be here.
I'm grateful to have you with us. Listen, what made now the right time to take On Purpose on tour, and how does a live audience change your dynamic?
So it's been 6 years since we launched the podcast, and I felt this was the right time because I think we're looking for community. I think people are looking for connection. And what better place to find it than surrounded by people who have the same habit as you every week and every day and every month of every year. Millions of people across the world are listening to On Purpose every day. And it's incredible to look left, look right, and be surrounded by those like-minded people. So I'm really excited for the audience to take part in Q&As, to take part in interactive exercises, and to leave having a very memorable evening.
It sounds like it's going to be a really good time. So many people with the same energy and the same thought process, all in the same space. Listen, you've spoken with so many influential and fascinating people. You know, I've seen your conversations with Michelle Obama, Lewis Hamilton, and recently you sat down with Selena Gomez and Benny Blanco. You've had the chance to observe a lot of couples and their dynamics over the years. What stood out to you about these two?
I think what stood out to me with Benny and Selena is just a really raw, real, mature relationship. They are open about the ups and downs. They're open about the challenges, and they've crafted something that allows both of them to play to their strengths. They understand what each of them bring to the relationship. And most of all, I think it was really beautiful to see positive masculinity go viral. It was incredible to see emotional intelligence go viral. And so I'm so grateful to them both for trusting me with that interview.
Yeah, through all of these conversations, Jay, is there something that surprises you or that has really stuck with you, maybe even changed how you think and process through things?
I think one of the biggest surprises was a few years ago when I had the opportunity to interview Oprah. And I remember her saying,
that's intimidating.
I was over the moon. I was so excited to interview someone I've been so inspired by. And what I loved was she was reframing. Usually when we're getting to know the people in our life or we're checking in with them, we ask them, how are you? And she was saying actually a better question to understand is what happened to you. When we learn about people's past, when we learn about their challenges, potentially even their trauma, it gives us so much more context over who they are and why they're that way. And so I think if there's someone in your life that you're deeply trying to understand, even if you don't ask the question, even for yourself, it's important to look back in order to take those steps forward.
Jay, I know you're a big believer in habits and that habits help to drive success. We are a morning show, so I wonder if you could share with our audience, what are some of your morning habits?
The first morning habit that I have for me is waking up and being thankful, because I think what it does is it sets you up for a great day. Now, sometimes you have to trick your mind because you wake up and you think, well, I'm thankful for the same things every day, and it can be challenging. So I often ask myself, how would my life be if I didn't have this? And all of a sudden the gratitude just comes to me. So how would your life be if you didn't have something? How much gratitude will you suddenly feel from a positive standpoint?
Yeah, gratitude starting out in the morning really sets the track for your day. Listen, globally, whether it is economic or political or lately here in Canada, it's been both. There's been a lot of stress. There's a lot of uncertainty. People don't live well with that. What's a simple daily habit that can help people feel a little bit more grounded, a little bit more in control of what's happening in their world?
That's such a great question. Here's the interesting thing, that at times of uncertainty, we look for certainty and we'll always be disappointed. So actually in times of uncertainty, look for service, look for opportunities to help, look for opportunities to make someone else's day better, look for an opportunity to reach out to a friend and check in with them. I find when we do that, that connection is what helps us carry the load. And so the weight of the load that we're carrying will always get heavier. It's just about how many more people you have with you carrying it that makes it lighter. So it's so important to reach out, to build those relationships, to just have one conversation a day that makes you feel better.
Yeah.
20 years ago this spring, a Canadian band played its very first show at a campus bar at McMaster University. Any guesses about who I'm talking about? Take a look.
Here we go!
about Arkells, of course. That is frontman Max Kerman doing one of the things he does so well, connecting with the crowd. Kerman is now taking that energy from the stage to the pages with a new memoir. It's called Try Hard, and it kind of feels like a coffee shop conversation put to paper, lifting the curtain on what it's really like to be in a band and make music for a living. Max Kerman is joining us in studio this morning. Hey, great to see you.
Thank you for having me.
This is so exciting. And I wanted to ask you about this title. Try hard is not typically a compliment.
No.
Right? But you're reclaiming that.
I'm taking it back.
Okay, so why that title?
Well, I've always been uncomfortable even calling myself a musician. You know, you're on a plane, like, what do you do? I'm like, I'm in a band. I don't know. But I realize I get to do a little bit of everything in this job. You know, we make music videos and we put on these live productions and we write songs and we have our hands in everything. And all that stuff I realize is just try hard stuff. You just want, last night I did this book launch event and it kind of turned into like a 75-minute like one-man show.
Really?
Yeah, and I was like, oh, that seems kind of interesting to me. So I think anybody who gets anywhere in this life is a bit of a try hard. By the way, though, can I just say to the viewers at home?
Yes, say all the things.
I had to read my own audiobook.
Oh, what was that like?
I thought I'd be so good at it. It's so, you reading off the teleprompter, that is an insane skill to me. I used to think it was kind of easy, but I couldn't even read certain passages. I was just like, I couldn't do it.
What was it? Was it because?
Okay, everybody, this is sort of embarrassing.
Okay, go.
But.
Nobody, okay, it's just us.
Just us, okay. So what happens, anytime I got stuck on a paragraph,
yes,
I'd say, someone needs to film me so I can read better. And then when a camera was in my face, I just could read better. So our manager would just come into the vocal booth and just put a phone in front of my face.
You know what? That's so weird, because I can't read off camera.
You can't read off camera?
I understand this entirely. You're right, it's a different skill set, right?
It's a different skill set.
Yeah.
So yeah, I learned a lot. And so like writing the book was interesting, and I learned a lot. Doing the audiobook was interesting. Figuring out what the cover should look like.
Yeah.
All of it was
So
like
many
just
elements.
stuff to do.
Yeah, and you know what I love learning about, Max, was the fact that...
Can I keep whispering like this?
Yeah, our mics will clearly not pick any of it
Okay,
up.
good.
Yes. So you went to McMaster University.
Yeah.
But the way that you form your band was so interesting. And you even write about it. You're like, I went to university really to form a band. So you used Frosh Week to basically scout.
Yes.
And you were looking for people that looked a certain way, a hair length maybe, a band t-shirt. What sort of hair length were you looking for?
Well, I was shaggy hair.
Shaggy hair, why?
Just because I figured those kinds of people would want to be in a band.
And tell me how that worked.
So I basically went up to every single person I met and I said, what kind of music are you into? If they answered correctly, if they're like, I like the Beatles, I'd be like, good. What, do you play an instrument? Most people were like, no, or they played classical music. Eventually, I found Nick and Mike on the first day of school.
Can you believe that? When you look back now,
yeah.
Could they believe? Were they like, who's this guy?
Well, I just said, you're in the band.
Yeah, you did.
And then they were like, what band? I was like, well, figure it out.
Right,
yeah.
and you certainly did.
Yeah.
Okay, can we play a quick look, true or false with you?
Please.
Okay, here we go. True or false? In grade 7, you cold called the manager of the Raptors, and you actually got through?
Yeah, the assignment was interview somebody in the community that has a job you want one day.
No way.
So I just opened the phone book and I said, can I please speak to Mr. Glenn Grunwald? And they put me through, and I talked to him, and I have no Glenn to this day.
No way,
Yeah.
and you know to this day.
Actually, I did the same thing in grade 10 with Darren Jones, who I just did his radio show upstairs, and Darren Jones had this great show, The Buzz, and he was on Kiss 92. And it was the same trick. If you're a student out there watching, just say it's a school assignment, and there's a chance you'll get the interview.
Good for you. I remember I called Brad Lamb, who's like a...
Oh, the realtor?
Well, I didn't know at the time, but like holds a huge corporation. But I called the office to ask to speak to Brad Lamb.
Oh, really?
I did not get through.
Did you need to buy a house or
I
something?
just had a question about real estate. This is a long time ago. Max Kerman, thank you so much for coming.
Sorry, I cut short on the true and false.
No,
game.
I mean, I could ask you so many questions. Maybe I'll do it off camera.
Off camera, or
if
whisper,
I could read my
whisper,
questions,
yeah.
that is. A reminder, Max's new memoir is called Try Hard, Creative Work in Progress. Thanks for being here.
Thank you.
You're listening to Your Morning, the podcast, where we bring you some of the best conversations from our show every week. Join us live on CTV every weekday, 6 to 9 a.m. Eastern, 7 to 10 a.m. Atlantic on CTV, CTV News Channel, or the CTV News app. Emma Donaghhue is back with a story that crashes right through the pages.
She has a gripping new novel. It's going to hurtle you back through history to one of the most haunting moments in October 1895. This is when the Paris Express tore through a station wall. The train tore through the wall, and it dangled over the streets of France.
Unbelievable. Donaghhue invites readers on board for its final fateful journey.
Take us through what happened to that train.
Well, basically, it was a really efficient, punctual service every single day from the Normandy coast to Paris, bringing holidaymakers, but also bringing, say, that day they had 3 different members of the National Assembly coming back from their country houses to Paris. So it was all going perfectly, but that particular day, one of the MPs asked, could the train be stopped in his village to pick up his private carriage? So one rich, entitled guy delayed the train by 10 minutes, and then the crew felt under enormous pressure to get to Paris on time.
It's like a domino effect right there.
Exactly.
So you can see how this sets up for a brilliant story. How did this end up on your radar?
Well, I was going to Paris for the year because my partner's a professor of French and has sabbaticals. So I found somewhere to live. It happened to be in the area of Montparnasse, which is not particularly touristy, so I didn't really know it. So I just Googled Montparnasse history, and I saw that photograph. And yes, the crash is famous not for the how many died, but for that photograph, because it's this iconic image of modernity gone wrong. Like high-tech, really impressive progress and efficiency and technology, but a comic fail. So I knew that I was looking at my next novel right there.
A lot of your novels are set in a singular location. Room, obviously, set in a room, an Irish cottage for the Pull of the Stars. We had a tiny island for Haven. So this one's on a train. But what's interesting is that you take us through the course of a single day, from 8:30 in the morning to 4:01 p.m. So what challenges come when you are constrained by time?
Oh, they're not challenges, they're liberation, because it kind of sets the rules of the game. It's like, okay, we know the rules, we're ready to play. So I wanted the novel to be like a train. I wanted it to include a huge number of people, so it would be a kind of a microcosm of society, but also for it to have that, single track, forward momentum and propulsive speed. And I knew that if I could make the novel as much like a train as possible, then it would excite the readers. So it was a dream to write, especially as I was able to bring on so many real people of the time, and Paris was the most multinational cosmopolitan society. I was spoiled for choice.
So I want to ask you about the people. I'm glad that you mentioned them. The crew in this book, they're inspired by real people. So some of your passengers are as well. You even turn the train herself, though, into a character. And I say herself because she is a she. So why did you want to personify her?
Well, the workmen, who are male in any profession like that, they tend to call the big vessel she, for a car or a ship or a train. But yeah, the novel features the real crew of the time and a handful of real passengers who were mentioned in some of the 40 newspaper articles of the time. But also I knew there would be dozens more people on that train, so I decided that my rule would be if some real person was in Paris in 1895, then they could have been on my train. And I knew that this would give me the most wide-ranging cast. There are people from Cambodia, Algeria, America, Ireland. Paris was just this hub that everybody wanted to get to for different reasons.
I know when I do research, when I look back and into things, it really changes how I view the world. So as a writer, when you dive into a subject like this, when you research a place, a train, the people behind it, does it change how you look at trains specifically now that you kind of know the inner workings of a trip like this?
Yeah, it makes me so aware of everybody else's hard work that lies behind my kind of frictionless experience. Like, for instance, one character I put in my story is a human coffee pot, because I spotted this in a painting in a Paris museum, a guy bearing a gigantic tank of boiling coffee on his back so he could sell it to customers in little taps on his chest. And I thought, that's such a lovely way of showing that, for them to have a quick cup of coffee is literally based on the back-breaking labor of this guy. So, I wanted to capture all the excitement of, travel and speed and progress, but also to show the realities that lay behind it and all the people who were getting hurt. I mean, trains had such a high kill rate of workmen. The railway companies all kept surgeons on staff for amputations because nothing could be allowed to slow down the system. Everybody had to get to Paris on time.
Have you heard of digital dementia? It's a neurological theory that suggests that the use of digital devices could increase cognitive decline.
That's really scary, considering how much we're all on our phones and computers. Now new research is actually casting doubt on that age-old belief that too much screen time is a bad thing. Here's CTV's science and technology specialist, Dan Riskin.
This is the best kind of science, is where you think you know what's going on, and then you're like, no, the data say something else. Because everybody knows that if you've got screens all around you all the time, you're not thinking, you're not reading, you're just going through a screen, and you have all these distractions all the time. We all know that that's going to make us, decline more quickly as we get older, but the evidence shows the opposite trend, of 58% less likely to have those kinds of problems if you're somebody that's using devices more often.
Okay, so break this down for us. So why were we thinking one thing and now we're thinking another thing? How did we get there?
Well, in 2012, this idea of digital dementia was put out there. This idea that because this generation is using so many devices, they are doomed to have this massive decline as they get older. But what we're seeing from study after study after study is the opposite trend. And so it's tricky because we don't exactly know how to explain it, but what we see, we can't fight with. And this is what I really love about science, is that you're allowed to be surprised by things. And sometimes what you think you already know turns out to be wrong, and you have to find a way to understand the world that fits with the way the world actually works.
And when we talk about screen time, do we have, can we break that down further?
Well, we can't. That's what makes this kind of an interesting start of the story. This is a meta-analysis of 57 different studies. And so instead of doing one controlled experiment where you have a bunch of people who are getting older and you assign some of them devices and some of them no devices, and you look to see what the outcomes are, this is looking across a whole bunch of correlations in different places. And what we tend to find is people that are making devices part of their daily lives, whether it's screens, tablets, computers, and that are engaged with that digital world, tend to be showing less decline than the people who are sticking to paper and pencil.
And we're looking at people over the age of 50 in this?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, all of these studies are people aged over 50. And so there are lots of great questions that come from this. Are all devices always good all the time for everyone?
Right.
We know for kids, where there's been a lot more work, that is not the case, right? Distractions are really detrimental to learning, and kids need to be spending more time outside, moving their bodies. And so devices are bad in certain parts of the life cycle, but it turns out that for people who are elderly, they're not, at least at first glance, bad to begin with. It's a matter of figuring out where the good things are.
So what does this mean in terms of how we think about technology really going forward? So what implications does this have?
I think the general thing is, if you're somebody who's using devices and looking at the next couple of years as retirement and moving past that, don't freak out about using your devices. Embrace them and find ways to use that technology to help you live the best life you can, because there isn't this sort of cloud hanging over us of digital dementia anymore.
Wow.
But with that said, there's still a lot of open questions about what kinds of screen use are good. Is social media has been shown to be really detrimental for young people. Is it also detrimental for the elderly? We'll find out.
Or is it a way to connect when we've talked about loneliness on this show many times.
That is fascinating, and not at all, I think, what we've been told.
Well, I know, because we've been told for so long, put down the device, too much looking at a screen, too much screen time, it's really going to impact your cognitive ability. So this maybe is just flipping it on its side, right? And what's also interesting, and Dan talked about too, because there's so many other factors. They didn't talk about what kind of screen time, what you're actually looking at. This was a way more umbrella approach to what they're looking to learn. So a lot more study has to happen here. But it also begs the question, I know my parents do a lot of the word games and stuff, which I do too. I started doing Wordle. I don't do it every day now. Drew wakes up and does it every day.
But there are a ton of apps and a whole market about keeping your brain sharp. And I think, like anything, it's that moderation, right? It's important to keep your brain sharp. It's important to just sit and zone out and watch a show. It's important to do lots of different things, right? What do you do? Anything?
So I do that every once in a while. I also like to do Connections. I used to love, what I used to love?
Connections?
Connections is also part of the New York Times app, where you go and it's got a whole bunch of games. Connections
like a puzzle.
it's interesting.
Okay.
You have to find word connections in groups. So there's that. I used to do Sudoku a lot.
Sudoku?
That's how I say it.
Sudoku.
Wait, what? How do you say it? The one with the numbers.
The number puzzle.
The numbers with all the squares. What do you do?
So I always go back to school. That's, for me, it's not just hobby things. I'm always going back. And you guys know this. I've been a student forever. And so I'm back in math classes right now. It has been a whole shift in my brain, having to use parts that I haven't really tapped into for 20 years.
How's that going?
It's been really good. It's hard, for sure. It's hard as an adult, but I think all I can think is I'm building pathways that I haven't accessed in a long time, and that's going to be great. Yeah. And it's really interesting. For me, it's always lifelong learning. And it's funny, the apple doesn't fall far from the tree, because my mom always does that.
Oh, cool.
So it's obviously what the family does. If you've got a young person in your life and you're looking to pass on some financial tips, you might consider this next book. Making Bank is a finance book aimed at the 12 to 17-year-old crowd. Joining us now with her tips is author and certified financial planner Shannon Lee Simmons. Great to have you back on the show.
Oh, thanks for having me.
So, Shannon, you chose to highlight a group that, listen, we have a lot of like puberty books for, but we don't necessarily have a lot of finance books for. Why did you want to focus on 12 to 17?
So this is the first demographic where like at 18 on their phone, they can like open a trading account while watching a show and like place bets, do whatever, and have tap technology to a credit card, and that's unprecedented pressure. So we've always had that stuff at 18, but now the sort of capacity for trouble is more. So I thought it was really important to practice those sort of financial skills before the stakes get real. And then I also had a lot of clients who I work with in my business who are like, me and my teen are fighting about money, help. So that was sort of how it all started and spiraled into a book.
Yeah, we've got this generation that has like instant access to money, but doesn't have visual access to money because we don't see it. We tap. They watched us, their parents. They watched us tap cards and tap phones and tap watches and tap all the things, but really not handle money. So how does that lack of a physical appearance of the money impact a 12 to 17-year-old's view of finances?
This really struck me when I started working with the teenagers that I was working with over the last 2 years. They have like almost like, I don't want to say gamification because they really do understand that like money is how you buy things. So it's not like that, but I think that you're less emotionally attached to it. It comes and goes. And there's like, I remember when I was a kid, I would watch my parents take out money, like $100 on Friday, and then you would watch them give $20 to the pizza person and you saw it come and go. So I think the idea of budgeting or like living within your means when they have a job is so much more difficult because they don't see money, and it's this sort of like logical concept, whereas where it's physical, it's a different part of your brain that's activated. So like my clients at my business have a hard time budgeting when everything is digital. Can you imagine being young and trying to budget when you never actually touch it? Is very difficult. I feel for them. It's really hard.
For sure. Well, I just think of my first experience with a credit card, and that limit, I instantly hit it because I wasn't physically holding money.
Right.
So let alone then everything is digital.
Yes.
How fluid your experience will be. It's a lot.
It's a lot. And now you can buy something by tapping your phone on a credit card. So when you turn 18 and the stakes get real, you can get yourself into financial trouble much faster than I think even 5 years ago.
There's also this whole culture of keeping up with the Joneses on social media. And these kids fall into this age where finance influencers are on TikTok. There's also just like regular old influencers who have this incredible life are on TikTok. So how does this social media piece fit into all of this?
In the same way for adults, only again, imagine it when you're young. So if you're watching a TikTok with somebody with a 7-step face routine and you're like, well, I need that primer, but you're only 14 years old, but that's normalized for you. So as parents, you might be thinking, what do you mean you need an $80 primer from Sephora? Like, you're 14, what are you talking about? But that is what's real. So the ratcheting up of day-to-day life and what's considered normal is happening because of influencers. And with the financial influencers, some are okay. I'm not hating not all financial influencers, but some of them are really, make money fast, take big bets. You got to spend money to make money, and they're talking about day trading in a way that, like, I've had conversations with 14-year-old kids who are like, I can't wait to day trade, and I'm like, you're what? So I spent 2 years working with them, and I remember they're such a different cohort than 10 years ago.
Yeah.
And it's because of all this access to online information.
So obviously, tons of great tips in the book, and so you should get the book to follow all the things. But we're going to have 5 money skills for teens to know right now: tracking, saving, spending, enjoying, and growing.
Yes.
So we'll go through. We have about a minute left. Great. So Cole's notes here, but let's go through this list.
Okay. So tracking is basically figuring out how much you make. These are all gig economy workers. And one of the biggest pitfalls, they would say, I want that, can I afford it? I'm like, well, what do you make? I don't know. So figuring out, like, what is your income and how do you project it? What are you saving for that's motivating? Because teens aren't motivated by 25 years from now you're going to be financially responsible. Like, make it about the sneakers, make it about the primer. Get them practicing the habit of saving. Spending is basically learning how to budget in a digital world. Enjoying your money is like not feeling bad if you want that Starbucks or you want that thing, like learning how to talk about it confidently with your parents and like negotiating that at home so that there's no fighting. And then growing your money is like, yeah, we all want to invest and grow our money. Let's do it in a way that's not YOLOing your life savings when you're 18. Like, thank God.
I love
so
that.
let's
YOLOing
practice.
your life savings. That just rolled off the tongue.
I spent a lot of time talking about it.
Yeah, no kidding.
It is an awesome show with tons of heart. It's known for a lot of things, including redefining South Asian representation in mainstream media. And it's rated as one of Canada's top 10 comedy series. I am talking about the Crave original, Late Bloomer, and it is coming back with its new second season. Season 2 continues to follow millennial content creator Jazme Duta, who's trying to find a balance between his Indo-Canadian roots and his growing online fame. Jazme Reina is the series creator and lead actor. He is back on your morning now to talk about the second season. Great to have you back on the show, my friend.
Thank you for having me.
It's really good to see you. And I know you were on about a year ago. You chatted with Lindsey, and that was right before season 1 dropped.
Yeah.
It went out into the world. Fans love it. Critics love it. I mentioned one of the top 10 shows in Canada. Globe and Mail called it one of the top 10 best new shows of 2024 from anywhere.
This is all news to me. I'm finding out now. Thank you.
People love it. How did it feel, though? Like, because this show, you put your blood, sweat, and tears into it, you put it out in the world, and it gets that response. What was that like for you?
It's pretty wild. I mean, I think the feedback has been insane. I think some of the press has been great, but I think just walking around the streets, having people come up to me like, "Oh, I love the show," and just hearing real stories about how people relate, like those are things that like really matter to me. I'm like, yeah, we did it. I think we're doing it. I think we're making it happen.
You're absolutely doing it. It's a great show. It's got heart. It's very funny. It's also beautifully shot and written as well. You know, the beginning of the second season, so I don't want to spoil much if people haven't seen the first season, but obviously first season ends with you moving out of the house, of your parents' house. People who watch the show know that happens under like some pretty challenging and unfortunate circumstances.
Yeah.
So season 2, we've got Jazme in the show, living on his own for the first time. What's his state of mind when we kind of pick up with him at the beginning of season 2?
I think he's just trying to be independent. You know, it's just kind of moved out in weird conditions. If you watch the show, everyone's like, "You moved out of the house, big deal." But it's like you got to watch the show to understand what actually happened.
Yes, yeah.
And so he's just trying to make it on his own and be on his own 2 feet and just try to be as independent as possible without having to rely on anybody. So he's just trying to prove something to himself.
One thing that I really love, I remember reading Playback Magazine. It's like the industry magazine back in November or December. They were talking about season 2, and they mentioned the fact that you are directing 2 episodes this season.
Yeah.
I love it. Like, as a fan and a viewer, when a star of a show then goes on to direct episodes of that show, I think it's really cool. We saw it with Dan Levy, Schitt's Creek, Mindy Kaling. Before she developed the Mindy Project, she directed a few episodes of The Office. I love it because I would imagine that actors have this like granular, creative understanding of the show, even more so because you're the creator of this as well.
Yeah.
So what was it like directing, man?
I felt pretty natural. I feel like when I'm writing a script, I'm always drawing pictures. I'm always storyboarding. So I know visually how I want the story to be. And even with the director of the show, Peter, who directed all first season, it was a very collaborative process. So I would always like, if there were certain shots I really wanted to happen, I'd be like, "Here's a picture. I'm drawing this for you. This is how I want it shot."
I love that.
And then the rest of the stuff, you know, he would come up with this as well. So I think I know what I want the show to look like, and I'm always trying to push for it to get there. So directing definitely felt like, I was like, oh yeah, I've drawn all these pictures, now I just have to shoot it exactly pretty much how I've drawn it. So,
I love that.
Thanks so much for joining us today.
If you'd like some more of these great conversations, don't forget to download or hit subscribe to Your Morning the Podcast on the iHeartRadio app or wherever you get your podcasts.
And then, of course, we got the whole TV side of things. You can watch us live weekday mornings on CTV, CTV News Channel, or if you're on the go, your CTV News app. Start your morning with us.